It's something that I heard from one of the coaches I was working with and then it came back to my mind just recently because um, the thing that the coach said to me is, remember, you're not a psychotherapist, and you're not there to make a psychotherapy for the people. You weren't asked to do that, and your job is completely different. I completely different might be a thing to discuss, but it came back to me just recently because uh, we were talking about possible improvements in some area for some people, and the person I was talking to was like, all right, this is what I observed, these are the things that are happening, and one of the leaders there is doing that, and the result of this leader doing that is this, and probably this leader is doing that because that's how he feels, that's how he was raised, or maybe that's what worked. And the more we talked about it, for me that was like, it's not a right path to go, in a sense. We're not there to make up psychotherapy for the person, so I'm not interested in why he's like this. We can stop at the, this is what we observed, this is what impact we see, and then take it from there rather than going deeper and deeper about the motives and psychotherapy. And I'm interested in, since you are studying to become a psychotherapist,
Yes.
how do you merge these two? Because,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you should actually be doing that. I don't know. Tell me what you think in general and in
So,
detail.
what a fantastic question actually to put up, because I can really relate to the part of you need to an ethical agreement on now you are in therapy or now you're not, and that means that the person you are talking about, talking with, is need to accept those terms that you are there for creating changes in those in that person, right? So that's what a together with a person, that is what a psychotherapy in general is focusing on and starting out. So you need to have that agreement before you can actually do any psychotherapy. So when you're talking about somebody in as a third person, you're not in a psychotherapist world, right? You need to
Obviously.
have the accept of this leader to say. And when saying that, I like just to start out saying why I started to look at psychotherapy as a interesting part. As a agile coach, I used to use the tools of coaching a lot, and the more I was working with different people, I tend to see that the issue or the issues that was the underlying part was not the what part, what they were doing and how they were doing it, and the practical part, but more like the who part, who they were and how they were perceiving the world and how they were uh, used to been sort of like programmed to solve different tasks. Not that they these or any people actually are aware of that. It's more like a subconscious thing. So looking into that and trying to say how can I help, uh, I was starting to touch upon those uh, who parts. Who are you? Why are you thinking? And that often tend to make people very emotional. And I had in the beginning not really, not many tools how to handle people's emotions within myself. So I was looking at
Yeah.
that as the first part. Uh, so in that sense, I can that small part of being a psychotherapy, of having a good uh, uh, place for myself to be in and being able to handle emotions is just one part. But I'm still not practicing psychotherapy that way. But
Yeah.
I am practicing it inwards, not outwards, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
we
That's uh, it's a great angle to what you're doing, I think. And then I'm interested in what's next for you, because still I want to pull your tongue a little bit more in the sense of, obviously, or when talking to some people, you're doing one-to-one coaching. Would you utilize the psychotherapy tools on someone, in a sense it's already a coaching conversation, you already have some type of a contract, and you already are in a, it's a safe space with one person talking to another one-to-one. It's not like two people are talking about the third person, and so on and so on. So are you interested in using those tools, or asking people if you can use those tools? Or is it more like, it's like it's not a psychotherapy, we're here to do business, and what do you think?
Oh, no, I will use them. I will use them. But I will, when you go into a coaching session, you actually set out the conditions or the agreements before, and I will put that into the agreement. We will end up when I'm saying that it needs to be a closed room. It needs to be a explicit conditions set up. If I'm in another setting where I'm working with people, maybe in an open room in Team Square, talking and asking coaching ways of going forward, I would be careful not to expose, for instance, what their beliefs are, which are something. When you're looking at beliefs, is a something that we often think is the truth of the world. This is how the world works.
Yeah,
But when you look at it from outside and expose that for a person and talk about, now the truth for you might not be the truth for another person. It becomes sometimes as a not very nice awareness of wow, or could end up being more like I get some pushback on it, right? Because this is the truth, right? This is how the world is, right?
yeah,
So I would be careful for not pushing too much in an open room, whereas in a more closed room, I would probably talk into or have a debate on different kinds of beliefs in that area. Um, so, and there's also the other part of when you're in an open room, you don't want people to, let's call that loose face, but you don't
yeah,
want them to be very emotional. You don't want to bring them out of balance in that area, and or at least not let themselves bring them out of balance, right? And then I have experienced people who are, let's call that, it's a great word, being stressed at work or something like that. Too much impressions and too little expressions. And when you work with together with those people, they tend to, this unbalanced part tends to be a very uh, easily ignite. That means that you need to be very carefully when you work with you if you don't want those expressions end out like breaking down, being very sad. They often are able to, you're able to help them pick them up and build and create a safe space around it, but you don't want to do that in a public, right? So you want to completely, as a coach or agile coach or psychotherapy knowledge, to work with that balance. So what you used to do is, what I used to do is to use this, trying to mirror the person. It is also a French word we use they call rapport, but we are mirroring the person. So we're looking at the
yeah,
state, and then we're mirroring that and following that and using those nonverbal communication paths in order to make sure that every person has a safe space, right? Did I answer your question?
um,
Somehow,
maybe.
maybe.
I'm thinking about different things that you talked about. One thing, mirroring. if we end up publishing this video, I will link a great YouTube recording of how mirroring works in practice. It it gave me a nice, yeah, I like sharing it each time there's mirroring being talked about. And another thing was you mentioned the pushback, which is yeah, also something that when you have this conflict of things, of beliefs, I imagine that 99.9% of cases, the pushback is the first thing. Like everyone wants to be internally coherent in some sense, and if you're not, then obviously it's not that I'm wrong.
Exactly, exactly. So when you're talking about this leader in for we are standing outside and looking into this person and talking about how can we understand this person's beliefs, right?
Yeah,
His belief system, right? So that I don't think that is psychotherapy. That is just analyzing and trying to understand the perspective of this person. We all have our own different model of the world or perspective of the world, because we are filtering the information in. Of course, we are sharing some kind of generic understanding, but this is the place for most fuck ups, right? Because I think that you have the same understanding as I have in my head. And you are saying some words, and when you are saying those words, I'm biased to hear it as I think it. It makes me think that you also think the same as I do.
yeah.
So, but if we don't do that, it's going to be very difficult to be communication together, right?